And hello and welcome to Holiday Blockbusters. Hey, see what I did there?
Yes.
So
Just phoning it in, aren't you?
and joining me as usual is Imaginos Pete
Hey.
and Andrew Walker
Ho, ho, ho.
and George Johnson. No relation.
Merry Christmas.
All right.
We got
Here,
George
we're gonna
back.
Rotate this
Yeah.
camera back.
Glad
this
to be
way a little
back.
bit. There we go.
George escaped a Syrian prison after the fall of Bashar Assad.
Oh yeah.
In Syria.
It was
Yeah.
a narrow.
Welcome.
No,
Yeah.
I did miss the musical one, and I'm forever.
Oh yeah, we missed
anguishing
you on that
over
one.
That.
We
That
know
one was
you
the
come from a musical family.
George was saying,
so-
I wish George and all of his daughters were here
No.
to talk about it.
That's right.
It was a good show, though. I listened to about half of it. Anyway, go on.
Yeah.
Oh, I
trash
see.
talk me
Well,
fine.
you
Sorry.
guys got your
Johnny
mics
Hitler?
mixed
What's
up
going on
over there.
We
All right.
do? Oh.
That's all right. I'll adjust. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're coming up toward the holidays. Christmas is about 2 weeks
Whatever do
away,
you mean,
less
Joe?
than 2
Could it be the
weeks.
hats?
Yeah. If you haven't figured it out, I grew my beard just for the occasion.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about our favorite holiday movies to watch over the next week or two. And so what I did is I created my top 10 list. We'll do the top 5, and then we'll kind of go around the table and have you guys chime in with your picks. George, when I sent out the message about holiday movies, you said, "Oh, this is so broad, this is so wide." But I actually struggled. I struggled coming up with 10 holiday movies, Christmas movies that I enjoy. It's not. I don't know. I need my holiday movie to be sincere, uplifting, and not so cynical and nasty as a lot of holiday movies over the past few years seem to be.
You know these are made in
So-
Hollywood, right?
I know, but they're so cynical. So we're gonna find out what you guys think. What would make a good holiday movie? So we'll get that conversation going now. So number 1 on my list is a movie I saw in the theaters when a lot of people hadn't, because it came out fairly early for the holiday season and then disappeared from theaters before Christmas even rolled around. And that's something I noticed as I was putting my list together. You're going to notice some weird release dates on some of these so-called holiday films. And it may be a coincidence that some of these movies that weren't released near Christmas tanked at the box office. You know, who wants to see a Christmas movie in the middle of July? Maybe some people, but I'll mention some of the release dates on some of these movies, and they're a little bit of a head scratcher. So I saw this movie. It came out on November 18th, 1983. Little movie called A Christmas Story. My number 1, hands down, favorite Christmas movie of all time. It just sort of spoke to me, I think, of thinking back to when I was a kid and, really, really wanting a Christmas gift and not knowing for sure if I was going to get it. And my mom would always do this thing where we'd open all our gifts and we'd think we'd be done, and I'd be kind of disappointed that I didn't get the big gift I was hoping for. And then she'd be like, "Wait a second, there are more gifts in the closet." And then she would pull more gifts out, and there it was. There was the gift that I wanted. So there were a lot of things in A Christmas Story that I related to. I loved all the little vignettes. Like, it wasn't necessarily a linear story. It was a collection of vignettes, which you may or may not know is based on short stories by Gene Shepard that were collected in a book called In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash. So the movie has that feel of just different vignettes, different moments, sticking your tongue to a pole and, getting the little Orphan Annie decoder ring and all that. Those are all just separate little funny scenes and moments that make it such an endearing movie. It was directed by Bob Clark, who, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, he's the same director that directed Black Christmas. So he did 2 Christmas movies, Black Christmas and it's a Christmas Story. So that's kind of interesting. Of course, it stars Peter Billingsley, who was a bit of a child TV star when I was younger. and he was cast as Ralphie in this movie. Darren McGavin, who I absolutely love, he gained some fame on television with the Night Stalker, Kolchak, the Night Stalker television series that was kind of the precursor to the X-Files. Melinda Dillon, who we had seen in Close Encounters, I think that was the role that actually brought her to the attention of the director, but she was in Slapshot and Harry and the Hendersons. She had a really great little IMDb resume. It was not a big hit because of the fact that it was released on November 18th, like I said, and was pretty much gone out of theaters before Christmas. It was just so hard to believe. So it only earned $19 million on a $3 million budget. So they got a return on their investment. I don't know if that includes marketing or whatever, but it was considered a box office disappointment. And when I talked to people about this movie, not a lot of people saw it in the theater. Most people watched it on television. So it has 89% from both critics and the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, it wasn't until the movie started airing on television. The first time it aired was in December of 1985. Then, years later, in 1997, TNT began their 24 hours of A Christmas Story marathon that starts at 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and runs to 8 p.m. on Christmas Day. And so when I'm with family, I usually stay the night and we have breakfast in the morning. We usually have A Christmas Story playing on the TV while we open presents and eat breakfast on Christmas morning. So it's become sort of a family tradition, which I imagine a lot of families have A Christmas Story on at least part of that 24-hour marathon that continues to this day. It spawned a couple of forgettable sequels. But in 2022, a sequel aired on HBO Max that contained a lot of the original actors, Peter Billingsley and the other actors that played his brother Randy and his friends. They all came back. We got to see what they were doing as adults in present day, which was kind of fun. And present day actually for the movie, because the original set in 1940, so the movie had to be set maybe in the 60s or 70s or something. I don't know. But I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was a worthy sequel to the original. Unfortunately, the mom had been recast. Melinda Dillon, as I said, played the mom originally. She was replaced by Julie Haggerty, who you may remember in Airplane. She had a co-starring role in Airplane. Sadly, just months after the movie was released on HBO Max, the original mom, Melinda Dillon, passed away. So I would imagine she wasn't able to take that role because she was in poor health. And the father, Darren McGavin, he passed away in 2006. So let's go around the table. Imaginos Pete, what are your thoughts of A Christmas Story?
I love it. It's in my Mount Rushmore of holiday movies.
I agree.
I love it because it is a story of betrayal, bribery, and it is one of the best mafia movies I've ever seen, where snitches get stitches, and yet they still show the consequences of outing someone. You're trying to bribe for a grade, and
my God, that fruit basket.
Yeah, and then when Schwartz, they left Flick out there. They violated the code, but no one told. Flick kept his mouth shut. I respect that in a man.
There you go.
A very Godfather.
He did.
But Schwartz got his when Ralphie dimed it out, when he learned the curse word. And one of the biggest beatings I've ever seen. That was one of the most savage beatings not aired. You heard.
Yeah, over the phone.
Yeah.
And, like I said, there are a lot of things in this movie I relate to, and that beating from an angry mother is something I can relate to. Those screams over the phone. And
the mother wailing, too.
I could almost hear the sound of a shoe.
Screeching.
A shoe or a slipper was the weapon of choice, I think. I can tell by the sound. But, yeah.
Schwartz didn't know what was happening until the fifth hit. It was like a kung fu flick. He did not know what was happening until the fifth hit him. That's when he realized, Mom, what's going on?
There's probably a number of things that ran through his mind that he was getting punished for. It could have been any one of a number of things. So he just finally
and
caught
it's
up
the
to him.
best thing to show how not to become a school shooter in that movie. Go fight the bully.
Oh my gosh, he took him out, and that was probably other than Ralphie getting the BB gun. Spoiler alert. him just taking down the bully was so satisfying. Seeing him
Yeah.
get that beat down. That's with social media today. You just wish that these people that are being bullies on social media can find out what it's like to get a pop in the mouth for spouting off. So it was so satisfying.
And the
to
piece
see
de
that.
resistance, the pink nightmare.
The rabbit suit,
Yeah.
which is such an odd moment in the film. The big pink bunny suit, hysterical. It's just so off the wall. I do remember thinking when I watched the movie in the theater, I was a little disappointed by the ending when the Bumpus's dogs ate the turkey and everything. But now I look at that ending as a classic when they're in the Chinese restaurant and they're singing Christmas carols, and it's a sweet, endearing
duck head.
ending.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I
the ma-
still just love that. She's like, she objects to it. She's like, it's looking at me. He comes over and chops it off, and she's like, ah! It's even worse.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but that whole scene was unscripted. Like, Melinda Dillon didn't know how it was going to unfold.
Yeah.
And, the camera's outside shooting into the dining room. So I don't even know if she knew the camera was rolling. But her reactions are genuine when, like, the head gets lopped off. It was really great to see.
I
It
mean,
was really
you could say
felt
one.
genuine.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you could say one word, and everyone knows what movie you're talking about. Fragile.
Yeah.
fragile.
Oh, I love
What's
that.
Italian, isn't it?
I love back to the scene in the restaurant where the guys come out and they start singing, and it's supposed to be fa la 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 la, and he goes, no, not fa ra 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 ra, it's fa ra 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 ra, and so they sing it the same way again.
Yeah.
I just cry every time I see that.
Oh, it's a classic now. Yeah.
You were jealous that I won something. That is the ugly. He heard that while dealing with the furnace. He came running through, what happened?
And in
Yeah,
terms of the tongue sticking thing, I think that was legit. I
No,
looked
no,
at
no,
that,
no.
and I could see his tongue looks like it's stuck to it.
It is.
Right?
Yeah.
It is, but it's not stuck because it's frozen. That would be dangerous. What they
Yeah.
did is that's not a real flagpole. It was a movie prop. Probably made of resin or something. They put a hole in it and they connected a tube to the hole and put a little air pump, and it sucked air in. So when he touched his tongue to it, it was just the air holding it in place. And whoever came up with that was brilliant because
Oh, it
I
works.
remember,
Yeah.
again, seeing it in
It
the theater
looks-
going, it looks stuck
That's
to that.
legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I did
so
that
he's
once with
brilliant.
my car.
He's pulling
and
away from
lived
it.
to-
Yeah, yeah.
Lived to tell the tale.
You don't want a chance ripping off a layer of tungsten.
That
Oh,
scene,
that would be
scene is
horrendous.
so well done.
It is.
Everybody's
it really is.
everybody's out there looking except the two guilty parties, and they're just looking down. It's
Well,
like,
and then they all
holy-
abandon him, and he's standing out there.
Holy
The teachers,
smokes, the
and
cops
teacher,
are here.
The
Oh,
teacher
no.
looks at the students, then they're all like, "Oh, nothing."
Andrew, what are your memories of A Christmas Story?
I was trying to think how old I was when I first saw it. It wasn't one of my earlier Christmas movies, but probably around 14 or 15 when I
That
saw it
late,
for the
huh?
first time.
Hmm.
And I instantly
Yeah.
loved it. It instantly became a classic in our household growing up, and would watch it for several years every year.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like you said, it's what channel is it? Is it TBS?
T-
TBS has the rights for
TNT
I mean, it's on several shows.
and and TBS. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there are
They're-
two channels now.
They're probably playing it right now as we're
Yeah,
speaking.
right.
But it's one of those that today I don't have to watch it because I got to the point where I've memorized
Oh, sure.
at least 50%
So many
of the dialogue.
quotable lines. Yeah.
Oh,
You shoot your
fudge.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved it. It's one of those where they hit a home run with it in every way. The casting was great. The story and just seeing it from Ralphie's point of view,
Yeah.
everything going on. Where he imagines the robbers outside, I love all of that.
I love
great.
the voiceover. Where did I hear my
Yeah.
dad
So
was?
that's Gene Shepard, who
Yeah.
wrote the stories. He's narrating the film
Yeah.
as well, and he makes a cameo. Did you know that? He has a cameo in the film. When they get in line to see Santa Claus, there's a guy that says, "Hey, kid, the line ends here. It begins over there."
Yeah.
That's Gene Shepard. He has a little cameo in
Oh.
the film. And also the director has a cameo in the film, really brief cameo, when the old man goes out on the street to admire the leg lamp, which is another odd thing that has become a Christmas icon. when he goes out there to admire the lamp, a neighbor or somebody comes walking by and he's like, "What's that?" That's Bob Clark. That's the
Oh,
director.
fantastic.
Yeah, his name is Swede, I think, in the film. So a couple cool little cameos in the film, and it was filmed in Cleveland mostly. Some of it was filmed in Canada, Toronto, I believe. But you can visit the Christmas Story house in Cleveland. You can go to Higbee, which used to be a department store. I think it's closed to the public now, but they always put a big display in the windows. That's where they film the parade scene,
Yep.
and the kids with their faces pressed up against the glass. That's at a real department store in Cleveland. So I did a Christmas Story trip years ago where we went to the house. The cool thing is that the guy who bought the house bought it on eBay. He was a huge Christmas Story fan, so he renovated the house
on eBay.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
just pause right there. Who puts that house on eBay? I guess they want to reach
Yeah.
out to a larger
Yeah.
I
auctioning
guess so.
audience.
And
I'm not
he-
going to hire a real local realtor. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the cool thing: the guy who bought it made money selling replica leg lamps. And so he made money selling leg lamps, bought the Christmas Story house, had it renovated to appear as it did exactly in the film. Not just the exteriors, but the interiors too. You go in there, there's a leg lamp in the window, there's a blue ball under the tree. You can climb under the kitchen sink because Daddy's going to kill Ralphie. It has all the period stuff. It's really worth the trip if you can make it out to Cleveland. And I remember when we closed the day after visiting the locations, we went and had our Chinese dinner. So it was pretty awesome.
That voiceover is
It is.
it's one of the best parts of the movie. Wake up,
Good point.
stupid! As I,
Wake up. Yeah.
later that night, I heard my man outside. I just want to heard taps being played.
That's right.
Well, the way he says, it's kind of right on the microphone, and he says,
Yeah.
"I remember the time when I had blood." It was just this tonal
Yeah,
quality.
the voice
Yeah.
is
and
great.
and sometimes it's just bursting with enthusiasm, and you can hear him as an older person, so that's the backdrop, and I think it's more powerful in some cases than having the sappy music or whatever. Although the music is obviously important, but having this guy, like talk about it,
Yeah.
it really sets the scene.
and have
Yeah.
Billsy react to it because it's
And
happening.
react to it. Yeah.
My old man wove a tapestry of obscenities that still hangs
the-
over Lake Michigan. George, any final thoughts on A Christmas Story?
No, I think it's brilliant. It's magic.
It is. It's not only one of my favorite Christmas movies, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. I mean, I just love it. All right, number 2 on my list, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, released December 1st, 1989, written by John Hughes, directed by someone named Jeremiah Chechik, who I'd never heard of course, starring Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo, Randy Quaid, and 2 new kids. Each vacation movie had 2 new actors playing the children. Juliette Lewis and Johnny Galecki, who went on to have pretty cool careers of their own, but they were great as the Griswold children, Rusty and Audrey. The movie was a pretty big hit, $73 million on a $25 million budget. On RT, 71% from critics, 86% from the audience. Now, what I remember about seeing this movie in the theater was I loved National Lampoon's Vacation when it came out a few years earlier. Just fantastic. And then they blew it with the sequel. I believe the sequel was European
Yeah.
Vacation, and I did not care for that one at all. And so I'm
It had
thinking,
some good scenes in it,
Did
but
it?
it falls third if
yeah.
right before Las Vegas Vacation or whatever. Those are
Yeah, that one too. So I went into Christmas Story with very low expectations, and I remember seeing it with family, and we had tears in our eyes. I mean, I remember the laughter in the theater from the audience. Probably one of my favorite moments was the squirrel coming out of the tree, when he's on the sled, the
Yeah.
toboggan, just zip like pew, just takes off. Laugh out loud, funny. It had its sweet moments, its nostalgic moments, and so it presented so many things that we as a society have memories of on Christmas Day, of dealing with family and the in-laws and so many things, and awaiting that Christmas bonus that may or may not come. Just so great. So many lines. Randy Quaid.
He stole that movie.
Oh,
from
my
me.
God.
He did.
You know, I went to Philadelphia a few years ago, and Randy Quaid was making an appearance at the show there. And I'm thinking, okay, when I get up to him and have him sign my camper, my RV, I'm like, what am I going to say to him? And I went up to him, I handed him the RV, he looked at it, he admired it, and I said, you make everything better that you're in. And he seemed genuinely moved by that. So he takes a red paint pen, and I have this RV, Christmas Vacation RV, enclosed in plastic, and he wrote with this red paint pen across the front of it, and he holds it up, and he looks at it, and he goes, that might be my best autograph ever. And I was like, thank you.
What?
And so that's
so
proudly
cool.
displayed at home. I'm still hoping you get a Chevy Chase signature someday, because he does make appearances too. But Randy Quaid, despite what you may have heard
He's
from
a
him,
fine actor too.
yeah,
He
and
gets
he's
a
a
lot of
nice
the
guy.
crappy.
He's a really super nice guy.
He
so.
gets a lot of the crappy, but I mean, what was he? Did he play Gerald Ford, I think, or something like that? He was one of the presidents.
Yeah.
And he does a bang up job. Maybe it was Johnson. And he does a
Yeah, I
bang up.
think that's what it was,
Is
yeah.
Johnson? Yeah, and he does a bang up job. I haven't
He
seen
was
that
great
yet,
in
but really-
Independence Day.
Independence Day was
and,
fantastic.
JFK.
Hey
he was
boys,
in.
I'm back.
He was, yeah. He's great in everything he does. He was in a western with Jesse
God.
James and all that. I think I don't know if it was the Long Riders or something like that, but it was like groups of real life brothers playing groups of historical brothers. So Randy Quaid acted with Dennis Quaid, and so they were brothers playing brothers, which was fascinating.
That's a cool western. I haven't seen it in years, but
Yeah.
that is cool.
So super nice guy. So all right, let's go around. Nick, your thoughts of Christmas Vacation?
I love it. I like I said, Randy Quaid stole that movie for me. Just one of the best lines is that of all the cheap, low-life ways to save a buck, that's pretty cool, mister. If I had a rubber hose, I'd be, this is the police captain, and that scene gets me every time. In the end.
Or when you see that how disappointed Clark is with his Jelly of the Month Club,
Yeah.
and he tries to make it better by going, it's the gift that keeps on giving
I
all
love that.
year long. Yeah, that it does.
They're just, and again, Quaid's like, oh my God, her eyes aren't crooked anymore. Yeah, she got kicked in the head and they came
falls
snap right
down a
back.
well. And
Yeah, I'm going. My God, I have such joy for that movie. I every time it's on, I'll stop and I'll watch that thing.
It is.
Is it in my Mount Rushmore? No, it's number 5. I have 4
Yeah.
spots, so it's my top 5, but it didn't make top 4 though.
Yeah. Andrew, your memories of Christmas Vacation?
Yeah, I was pretty young when I first saw it. We didn't have cable at the time, so I saw an edited version that we recorded on VHS. I think it's some of the funniest parts are when Cousin Eddie first is like looking around the house and like the day of or the day after his family arrives, and he's touching like some of the stuff and
There's a little wooden
and
sculpture or something.
and he like breaks it.
I like when they're shopping and he's buying those giant bags of dog food.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
don't
then-
ruin that for me. That's I love that scene.
And then
Go on.
Chevy Chase, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but as they're talking, Chevy Chase grabs some light bulbs and places it on the top bag, and then Eddie throws another bag of dog food on top
I
of
never
the-
noticed that.
Watch as they're talking and shopping. He throws another bag of dog food on top of the light bulbs.
Oh,
It's
that's too
hilarious.
And when Beverly D'Angelo's talking to Clark, she says, I'm worried that they're not gonna, be able to get their kids any Christmas presents because Eddie's been out of work for 7 years. He's waiting for a management job.
right.
And
Yeah.
then one of my other favorite parts is when the cops come in at the end. They break in the house, and Beverly D'Angelo
Yes.
grabs his,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It says freeze.
And they're like, freeze,
and she's
yeah.
like-
And she's holding it.
and then she shakes the and they
puts
go- and there's an audible sound. It's like,
like a cupping sound.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah. And we got to acknowledge too the over the top lights on the house.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, whenever you see someone going to the extreme now, you're like, that's a Griswold effort right there.
And
I mean,
the people who
like,
suffer the most
come on.
are Julie Louis Dreyfus. And the
Oh, yeah,
neighbors.
yeah.
oh, the
Yeah,
poor
yeah.
neighbors. Yeah. And that's another classic moment. Why is the carpet all wet, Todd? I don't know,
No,
Margot.
Margot. And yeah, as soon as he turns the lights on, you see the meter, and then there's a quick aerial view of
Oh,
the
yeah.
suburb, and the lights are
Dimming,
dimming,
yeah.
and then you see someone flip a switch like
At the
nuclear
power
auxiliary.
plant. Homer Simpson had turning the nuclear plant up. Yeah.
Excellent movie.
So great. George, your memories of Christmas
Yeah, my two
Vacation?
favorite parts of that. I think the one part when he's in the attic and he stepped through to the bunk bed underneath, because he's in the attic. And he steps through and
Oh, the
he's got
seating
the
big-
he gets locked up there or whatever, and he's watching these family movies, and it
Yeah.
adds.
Isn't that a sweet
I think
moment?
it's a sweet moment.
surprisingly sweet
It
moment.
is a
for
surprising, and I'm really grateful that he put it in there because it gives his character more dimension.
yeah.
Yes.
And I love it when he's outside and he hits the family. Family comes out and says, "Congratulations, you got all these lights together." And there's a little bit of an emotional moment there
Yeah.
too. The fact that he puts up with his brother, I think it eclipses the first Vacation. I really do.
I do not have a problem with
I
that.
love
yeah.
the first Vacation. It's great in a lot of ways, but I think because I think it has a little bit more heart. But my
Yeah.
favorite scene, the one I always come back to every year for my wife is, you know what, Clark? I don't have a whole lot of money. And he's walking down when it's in the grocery store, and he's like, and Clark goes, well, I could spot you somebody. He goes, why don't you get so and so this? Why don't you get so my son and my
He
daughter?
had a list.
He had a list, and then he finally comes back and he goes, you know what, Clark? Why don't you get yourself something real nice too? I just cried when I heard that because he's asking him to spend
awesome.
money on himself,
yeah.
with his own money or whatever. It's just such a great scene, and the way he walks around, he's got those giant lapels and everything.
Yeah.
I just think he's astounding.
And we got to acknowledge the grandmother who, I don't know if you guys know this, was the original voice of Betty Boop. She would do the boop, beep, ba-doop.
What?
So that is the actress who did the voice of Betty Boop.
Oh.
And she had some great moments. She, wrapped the cat up. She put cat food in the Jello. She does the what is it? The Pledge of Allegiance
Yeah.
for saying grace. And I
She
just
passed away 30 years ago.
and I love the line when she's like, "I hear it too. It's a squeaking sound." And then her husband goes, "You couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin
plant.
That's just the writing on this movie is just
Yes.
spectacular. It's so good. So yeah, that's another one I watch every year. Now we're going to go way back, and this should generate some interesting conversation. We're going to go back to 1946, and here's the first one on my list that has a weird release date. So, It's a Wonderful Life had a limited release on December 20th, but it didn't go wide release to theaters until January 7th, 1947. So think about this. People are done with the holidays. We're spent. It's behind us. And then they release this holiday feel-good movie, and I don't think anyone was interested in seeing it. And so initially it didn't make a whole lot of money and was not a big hit when it first came out. And so it was directed by Frank Capra, of course, starring Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, who I absolutely adored in this film.
Love
So
that. She's so
lovely
good
and
in this
sweet.
movie. Absolutely.
Henry Travers is Clarence the Angel, and
Perfect.
Boo Lionel Barrymore is mean Mr. Potter.
He's perfect.
Carolyn Grimes played the youngest daughter, Zuzu, and she's still around. She's still making appearances. I think she's going to be making appearance at the Redford if she hasn't already.
Wow.
But she still makes appearances. And here's the cool thing. When you talk to her, not only as you're talking to her, you're like, man, she was in a movie with Jimmy Stewart. She also was in The Bishop's Wife as Cary Grant's daughter.
Yep.
So here's this woman who was in two classic movies with two of the biggest stars in movie
Yeah.
history. That's a pretty cool track
I'm surprised that
record.
you've seen the Bishop's Wife. Have you seen that?
Yeah, that's on my list. We'll talk about it a little bit
Oh.
later. Yeah. So let's see. It earned only $3.3 million on a $3.18 million budget. So it barely broke even on its release. And so I think Frank Capra had trouble like getting his personal projects made after that because it was considered kind of a box office disaster.
It's got to be because of the release date, though, right?
I would think so, that it should have come out in December.
Thanksgiving or something, that would have been even,
Yeah.
with that whole month.
I was going to ask you, Joe, if you had looked into it, why they chose that release date. Like, it's something happened.
That's a good question.
With
I don't know.
The studio's scheduling, because that seems.
Yeah. Now, here's the weird thing. When you really think about it, the bulk of It's a Wonderful Life, 90% of it has nothing to do with Christmas. Nothing to do with Christmas. It's only at the end when everybody gets together and the town comes together and they all pull their money together and they sing at the end. It really isn't a Christmas movie. So maybe that's what the studios were thinking is, oh, well, people aren't going to see this as a Christmas movie, because the whole period where he's, going through life where he had never been born, there's no references to Christmas during that. So that might have had something to do with it. It only really became a beloved Christmas classic on TV replays. Like I had read something that like the copyright had lapsed, so a lot of TV stations were showing it because they didn't have to pay royalties to anyone. That's what I had read. So it was one of those things that really found an audience on television and just became something that TV stations played every year around Christmas. I had read something that they were trying to play it like around Thanksgiving and it wouldn't get any ratings. And so when they would show it around Christmas, it got big ratings. So it became over time something that people associated with Christmas, but wasn't necessarily considered a Christmas movie initially. One little cool tidbit is, how I like to visit film locations. I have a to-do list on my bucket list. There's a school called Beverly Hills High School in the LA area, and it is the gymnasium that opens up to reveal the pool. That was filmed at Beverly Hills High School, and I believe that floor still opens up today to reveal the pool.
Nice.
And then the other location that still exists today is the Martini House, which is the house where they all gather in front of the house and Donna Reed presents like bread and wine or something to the family that bought the house. That location still stands today. Unfortunately, Bedford Falls was part of a kind of a what they call a ranch, a backlot sort of thing. And so even though it was built as an actual, like one of the biggest sets in movie history, it all got razed at some point and all got demolished. So fortunately, Bedford Falls doesn't exist anymore, Mary. So
I just looked this up, and I asked Google, why was It's a Wonderful Life released December 20th?
So late.
Mm-hmm.
So RKO, the film's distributor, needed a movie to release in time for Christmas. That distributor scheduled Christmas movie Sinbad the Sailor wasn't ready.
Huh.
And It's a Wonderful Life was supposed to come out in January. Which would have been after the Oscar deadline. So they also moved it up in December, so it'd be eligible for the Oscars.
So they did the limited release in December to be eligible for the Oscars, but then got a wide release in January.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I was curious about that.
All right.
Because all common sense would tell you, even back then would tell you.
Yeah, get it in the theaters.
Take
advantage of that spirit of the holiday.
Get 3 weeks in before Christmas Day, and you should do pretty well. But
now I have to admit, It's a Wonderful Life wasn't something my family watched every year growing up. It wasn't something I discovered until I was quite a bit older. I probably discovered it in my 30s, maybe. And I'm like, this movie is amazing. It became one of my all-time favorites. Nick, was It's a Wonderful Life repeated viewing in the household?
Early on, yeah. I mean, you if you are in America, you have to watch It's a Wonderful Life. It's almost like a birthright. You have to. It should be part of the citizenship test.
Agreed. I think so too.
Yeah, just watch it. I mean, you don't have to like it, but just watch it because it's one of those things. If it fell out of rotation, you'd notice it's gone.
Yeah.
You may not sit down to watch it all the time, but if it's not there, you're like, wait a minute, something feels off. It's not.
You
there.
can't have Christmas, and if you did have Christmas and didn't see it, or at least see a part of it,
Yeah.
you're like, what happened? It's missing.
Like if you were
Yeah.
searching through the TV guide and you didn't see It's a Wonderful Life, it would feel off to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would almost even just want to have it playing in the background while you're
Yeah.
doing stuff and wrapping gifts. It's just atmospheric. You
Just
know?
to hear Mary, Mary. You just
Zuzu's pedals.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
so again, it's not on my Mount Rushmore, but you can't have Christmas without it.
Yeah, yeah. Andrew, did you grow up with it in your household?
No, we didn't. I was trying to remember how old I was the first and only time I watched it. It was a long time ago, like in college. So,
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I only remember bits and pieces of it.
Yeah,
Maybe this season I'll get to watch it again because I remember liking it, and I know everyone loves it, and yeah,
I'm going to do a faux pas here. Usually when someone has a no hitter, you don't mention it. We're 3 for 3 right now, and Andrew seeing movies that we've all seen.
All right.
Yay.
Let's
Just
keep
three.
it on.
It doesn't matter how much you remember. The fact that he's seen it. We're 3 for 3 right now.
I'm gonna end it at number 4, but at least we got 3 going. George, go ahead.
Just one quick thing. The FBI investigated this movie
Oh yeah.
until 1958.
Yeah, they said that it was a thinly veiled message promoting communism because they went after
Everything was back then.
the banker. They
Yeah.
made the banker look mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're all joyful people.
Yeah.
Don't say
And it glorified anti-American values.
Come on,
Yeah.
man. That's
Which
crazy.
part was that again?
Yeah.
Well, the fact that they made the elites look like the villain and that old man Potter was.
Well, they're going to
the-
hate Mary Poppins.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so
they believed the movie was a subversive attempt to introduce communist propaganda to the
That's
public.
scary.
yeah, isn't
I
that
mean,
nuts?
Come on.
That's crazy. George, your thoughts on It's a Wonderful
Yeah, I
Life?
still get verklempt when I watch it. I do.
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty amazing. It's toward the end and everybody comes together.
Oh my gosh.
It's absolutely fantastic. But there's a few little parts in there that I really like. I like that the magic doesn't happen right up front.
Mhm.
Clarence the Angel. Well, Clarence the Angel is at the beginning, but it kind
Yeah,
of
there's
shows
a long
his life.
build up to it.
There's
yeah.
a long
Yeah.
build up. They give his history. They show him as a kid getting batted around. He rescues
Lost
his
the
brother.
hearing,
Loses his hearing.
yeah.
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 A lot of good things there. My favorite part about that movie is the house that they live in because it's a piece of junk.
Oh, the one, yeah, when they break the window. Yeah,
Yeah. And I don't know that this is his family that makes
Yeah.
his home out of a house that's just falling apart and the windows, and he keeps running up the stairs. It's
banister,
great.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. I just think it's
Yeah.
great, but it's also, I think I've talked about this before. To me, it's another version of A Christmas Carol because it's kind of the
Yes.
timeline traveling.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Learning about the impact that you've had on people.
exactly, and saying, why are you throwing us all away?
Yeah.
I'm more dead than I am alive, and
Yeah.
it's this moment that he's just like, come on.
Speaking of moments, my favorite moment, and this may have ruined me in some way, but there's the moment when George and Mary are sharing the telephone as they're listening to Sam Wainwright on the phone or
Oh, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and they're like cheek to cheek
There's
listening to the
such
conversation,
chemistry
and
there.
something
Oh.
happens that was captured by this camera. Something's going on there. There's this magic, this thing
Yes.
where it's one of the greatest romantic moments in movie history, and I say it may have ruined me because I've been looking for that my whole life and have never found it. And I
That
think
is a
I think
beautiful,
movies have
beautiful
ruined me. They've broken me. But that's such a
Merry
great
Christmas,
movie.
everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, when Mary's your standard, nobody can live up to that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, this is where I think I might lose you guys. This one's a little obscure. It's something I only discovered a number of years ago, probably less than 10 years ago, when I was going through a classic movie phase when Netflix was still mailing DVDs. And I ended up getting on Netflix. It arrived in the mail on DVD, The Shop Around the Corner. You guys familiar with
awesome.
The Shop
Yes.
Around the Corner?
Yes.
I
That's
knew
also
Andrew
Jimmy
was going to
Stewart.
shake his head. So
Which is weird because when you said obscure, that's where he lives in the obscure.
Yeah,
ones.
right.
Like those are all the movies like my
Yeah,
mother's
wait,
Castle.
no, Shop Around the Corner. I've seen that, guys.
No,
Yeah, 1938, right?
Is that the one where they were on ecstasy? No, Andrew. No. So this had another weird release
The
date.
plant
Again,
was going to eat everyone. That's the Little Shop of Horrors.
This movie does check off all the boxes of being a Christmas movie, yet it was released on January 12th, 1940 by MGM. So it's weird, again, that this was a New Year release, not a holiday release, which is so weird. Directed by Ernst Lubitsch. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Another James Stewart movie, Margaret Sullivan and Frank Morgan, who you might know as the Wizard from The Wizard of Oz. These numbers kind of made me laugh. It earned $500,000 on a $380,000 budget. So even by those standards in 1940, this was a low-budget film that they were happy to make $120,000 profit on this film. It's beloved by people who've seen it. 99% critics on RT. Audience members gave it 91%. Now, if the movie doesn't sound familiar to you, its remake should be familiar to you. It was loosely remade as You've Got Mail.
Yep.
In 1998, one of the Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan pairings. And there's a lot of differences. Like in the original one, Margaret Sullivan and Jim Stewart work at a department store around the holidays together, and they don't really like each other in real life, but they've been corresponding anonymously with each other, so they kind of fell in love through letters that they were sending to each other. You've Got Mail uses, I think, emails or something in that vein.
Yeah.
And even though they don't necessarily work together, she has a little bookstore, and he works for a big book conglomerate.
And her store is called
The Shop Around the Corner. And so basically, it's the story of every Hallmark movie that airs. So it's loosely remade, but there's some line for line copies in You've Got Mail. Like my favorite scene in both films is when Jimmy Stewart has finally gotten this anonymous woman to agree to meet him at a restaurant, but he has somebody else look. He's like, look in the window and tell me if she's there and tell me what she looks like. And he says, do you think Miss Novak is attractive? And he's like, I don't know. Why? Why are you bringing her up? And he goes, because it is Miss Novak. They do almost the exact same
Dave
thing.
Chappelle.
With Dave Chappelle has that line in You've Got Mail where he's like, well, if you don't think she's attractive, you're not going to like her because it is her. And so it's cool that there are some elements that made it into You've Got Mail. So it's basically a loose remake. But it like I said, it checks all the boxes of being a classic Christmas film. There's some surprisingly dark moments in it that deal with suicide, which kind of surprised me when I saw it for the first time. But it's just such a great movie to watch this time of the year, and it's hard to keep your emotions in check at the end when the realization comes that Margaret Sullivan realizes that Jimmy Stewart is the man she's been corresponding with. It's just one of the all-time great movie endings. So, Nick, you've seen it. You concur?
I have. I've seen both. I unfortunately have a negative association with that movie because when everyone was gushing about at the time You've Got Mail, I happened to be that classic, jerkish reaction to say, yeah, why? It's just a remake of Shop Around the Corner. And, of course, my female friends went, what? What do you mean? And then, I should have taken the cue of, oh, no, I didn't mean that. But I walked right into traffic like, no, here it is. This is why, you guys shouldn't get overhyped. It's just a remake,
Yeah,
in fact, they took this line. And it ruined the movie for them because they thought it was a genuinely original movie.
Yeah. No, there's a line that I love.
And I was threatened with violence.
Yeah. Now, there's a line that I love when someone says, I
Merry
liked
Christmas.
it better when it was called The Shop Around the Corner. And people are like, what are you talking about? Yeah, this is a remake. It's not an original film. As a matter of fact, the script, I have this written down here someplace. I believe, maybe I'm confusing it with another movie.
They
I
remade
thought
it as a musical. Is that where you're going?
No. I
With
thought there
Zachary
might have been
Levi?
some Oscars connected to this,
Is
but I might be
everything a
thinking of
musical
different
now?
movie.
Yeah, so it's got
Yeah.
it's great. It's called She Loves Me, and it's got Zachary Levi, who is is Shazam,
Yeah.
the actor for
Yeah,
Shazam,
yeah.
and he's fantastic in it.
Like in a stage version or a film
No, it's
version?
actually a film version, but
I've
I've seen
never
the
heard of
stage
this.
version. Yeah, it's called She Loves Me,
Interesting.
and it's the same thing. It's basically
Wow.
the exact
It's a
same
great
thing.
story.
It's a
and-
great story.
yeah,
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah. All right.
I had no problem with the premise. I was just getting, when they were like
Yeah, yeah.
gushing over the movie, and I was like, instead of saying, I should let them have their joy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
in hindsight. The savage
Well,
beating that I
We're
incurred.
movie snobs, so.
Yeah.
All right. That brings us to number 5.
Oh, wait.
Oh, did you
I was
want
just
to
gonna
chime
add
in?
one
Go
thing
ahead, Andrew.
I'm reading about It says
Andrew, if you've seen You've Got Mail, this counts this as the streak.
I don't know. No, I
Yeah,
haven't
I
seen
don't
it.
think.
I had such high
But
hopes
it
for you.
says the director makes brilliant deployment of point of view, allowing the audience to enter the perceptions of each character at exactly the right moment to develop maximum sympathy and suspense.
Yeah.
And
it's great.
it's got a 99 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So
You're right. 99 from critics, 91 from the audience. Yeah.
I got to see this.
yeah.
See,
Yeah.
it's easier to take a 99 more seriously than a damn 100.
Yeah, if it had gotten 100, you would have
Nick's
got
gotta bring this
an
up every
angry
episode.
reaction from Nick, but he's okay with 99. George, any final thoughts before
Nope.
we go on to number
Awesome
5?
movie. Thanks.
Yeah. Number 5, this might take up the next half hour or so because this is the time in our program where we're going to talk about a classic Christmas staple, but this particular movie has been made and remade about 25 times. You can find a list online of the top 25 versions of A Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
It's a classic story, of course, written by Charles Dickens in, is it 1943? Does that sound right? Sounds like it should predate that, but I'll have to look
Charles
that up.
Dickens is 1800.
18, all right. I
Very
think
much,
that's a typo.
Very much a typo.
All right, might be
absolutely.
1840.
Maybe the ghosts of Charles Dickens wrote it in 43.
you
You
go.
can never know for sure.
Look that up, Andrew.
When it
look
first
up,
came out?
Look up Christmas Carol by Charles
No, the
Dickens when it
Christmas
was
Carol
published.
by Charles Dickens is early 1800s.
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Now, my personal favorite, and a lot of people agree that this is the best version of the story committed to film. For me personally, it was released in 1951, the 51 version, directed by Brian Desmond Hurst. And this one stars Alastair Sims as Scrooge. On Rotten Tomatoes, 86%, 89%. It's black and white. Just an amazing performance by
It is.
Alastair Sims,
It's
where
fantastic.
he goes from angry and the curmudgeon throughout most of the film to this joyful, happy guy at the end, and you really buy into that transformation. He pulls both of those aspects of Scrooge off really well. Just a few years ago, I did like a marathon of Christmas Carol movies. I watched maybe 6 or 7 over the course of a week or so, and I decided this is the best version committed to film. Andrew, did you find out when?
1843.
All right, so that was a typo on my part. So 1843 novella by Charles Dickens. Now, I'm going to rattle off a couple of remakes real quick, and then we'll go around the table, and you guys tell me what some of your favorites are. There's a 1938 version that predates the Alastair Sims version called A Christmas Carol. This one stars Reginald Owen as Scrooge. Of course, there's Scrooged, starring Bill Murray. He does not play Scrooge, though. He plays Frank Cross, a TV executive. This came out in 1988. There's a Christmas Carol that came out in 1984, starring George C. Scott. One of my favorite iterations of A Christmas Carol is A Muppet
Don't
Christmas
say it.
Carol, 1992.
It's
I'm just
my
gonna
favorite.
Yeah.
breeze past it. We'll get to you in a
All
second.
right.
This one, Michael Caine plays Scrooge, and he does an
Nails.
Academy Award performance of Scrooge. There was a TV movie. I know we don't really get into TV movies, but there's a TV version that came out in 1999 starring Patrick Stewart.
Yes. That one's great too.
And then you
Yeah.
guys mentioned to me a week or so ago, I got to check this out, with a running time of 25 minutes, Mickey's Christmas
Yeah.
Carol with Scrooge McDuck that came out in 1983.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the 25 versions that have come out over the past several decades. Let's go around and get your favorite versions of A Christmas Carol. Nick?
You mentioned 3 of them. I'm going to let George talk about them up at Christmas Carol.
All right, well,
but I,
let's save
because
that.
I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
The one that I want to talk about is Disney. Is the Mickey Christmas Carol. That there's a scene in there when you watch it, you'll see it with the
It's
Tiny
so
Tim part.
good.
That
it's
for
so
a Chris
good.
for a
What
cartoon.
year did that come out? Like in the 60s?
No,
80,
80.
no, 83.
83.
Oh wow, I haven't seen it.
If you
Okay.
get a chance, it's 25 minutes long. They did a great job when they show the part about Tiny Tim at the end. When because he passed, and they show Scrooge McDuck visiting, and you see Mickey kneeling at the grave, putting the stick down.
Wow.
That broke me. I wasn't
Andrew,
a kid.
Andrew's
I was a
getting a
kid.
little teary-eyed over
I
there.
wasn't. I didn't see it in '83 when it first came out. I was in India, but I saw it as a teenager, and then it broke me. Then I watch it now, and I'm like, I still get teared up.
Wow.
When they animated that was fantastic. Everything else, Muppet Christmas Carol, love it.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart. I never saw the 1938 version. There's so many. I actually not a big. I've watched them. I wouldn't put them up as the black and white originals. If I watch it, I'll watch it, but I'm not. The more modern ones always stick with me.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, same with me. The Muppet one is so stinking good. I saw that in the theater when I was a kid.
Oh.
It came out in '92, probably.
Yeah, that's
So-
exactly when it came
Gonzo
out.
and Rizzo are so great.
1992.
Yes.
I saw it on a date. I took a girl on a date to go see it, and when we got out, someone had smashed into her car. So, but
You could have
But,
left
yeah.
that part out. You just made it a happy memory.
And I
Yeah,
can't
thanks a lot.
I can't believe
love
that the Mickey's Christmas one is only a half hour. I could have swore it was
Yeah.
at least
it felt longer.
It felt watching it as a kid. I thought it was at least an hour.
I was
Yeah.
shocked when I looked it up. I'm like, 25 minutes. That's
I
breezy.
had it on VHS as a kid and watched it several times. I
Yeah,
remember, but it's so good. I got to watch it on Disney Plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you get a chance,
Uh,
must watch.
I think I did see the one with Alistair. What's his name?
Alistair Sims.
Was
yeah.
that in the
I believe-
early
is it
50s?
Alistair?
That was 1951. Yeah.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I saw the majority of that one.
Yeah.
From what I can remember, and like the style of the film like puts me in the mind of it would have been the early 50s.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another one. If you don't see A Christmas Carol during the holiday season,
Yeah.
it's like A Wonderful Life. It would be weird if it's not on there.
Yeah. And it's at times scary and at times moving and beautiful, and it's just got everything going for it. It's just great. All right, George, this is the moment we've all been waiting
I think
for.
we've already beat it.
Give us your synopsis of A Muppet Christmas Carol.
I love it because it kind of gets you. It kind of gets in under the radar because you got these Muppets and things, and the Muppets are so fun. Yes. And the Ghost of Christmas Present is phenomenal. The Michael Caine approach to this.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could, as an actor, and I'm not an actor, but I don't know that if I could bring my A game to a Muppets kind of a thing. But he did.
He did. Yeah. That's a great description of him just taking it so seriously that I'm an actor and I'm going to act my butt off in this.
Yeah, and so you bring this story to kids who probably, other than that, wouldn't really care. But then you also have Rizzo, who's narrating, and he's great at it. At one point, he says, "I'll meet you at the end" or something, you know. But he's all through it, and it's really great. And
Yeah.
wow,
Great film. And
fantastic.
Kermit as Bob Cratchit, and just
They got some good
so
songs in
great.
there too.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of fun songs.
It's
so.
that's in my Mount Rushmore.
Is it really?
Is it?
Muppet Christmas Carol
Interesting.
because it's
All right. So we hit 2 of your Mount Rushmore's Christmas
Yeah.
Story, Muppet Christmas Carol. All right, so that's my top 5. Before we get into my next 5, let's go around the table. Nick, what else would appear on your Christmas movie Mount Rushmore?
I can't get enough of this movie, and I loved it when I was skeptical when I first heard about it. When I saw it, I loved it. How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. I watch
Really?
it every time
Okay.
it's out there. I love that movie. I love his performance.
Really?
I love the subtle humor that he puts in there. I love all the little snipes he takes at it. Look, I always enjoy the original one that came out of the cartoon, but How the Grinch Stole Christmas, what he endured, and everything that he put into it, I can't get enough of it.
I applaud his performance. I mean, you know, he doesn't get hidden behind that makeup. That makeup only accentuates his abilities like he did in The Mask. For some reason, that particular movie never really spoke to me.
Yeah,
I thought all the Whoville people looked a little weird and freaky to me. So I've seen it. It just hasn't cracked my top 10.
It's hilarious to me. All his jokes, he's like, I really have to get going. It's a kilt, sicko.
There's that one moment, and I don't know if this is true or not, but there's a scene in the movie where he grabs a tablecloth and there's all kinds of dishes and stuff on the
Yes.
table. And the scene was supposed to go where he just pulls everything off the table and makes a mess, but he grabs the tablecloth, pulls it,
And
and,
he nailed-
nothing moved. And so then he comes back and knocks everything off with his hands, and they were like, "That's a take." And so
Wow.
the urban legend goes that wasn't supposed to happen, but it was a classic scene in that movie.
Nice.
And all right, so that's 3 of your Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Give us your 4th Mount Rushmore.
We heard the 4th.
Yeah, well,
You got
Was
Christmas
it
Story,
Was
Muppets.
it Christmas Vacation?
How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Okay.
And then the
what's
last
your
one is, it was a toss-up. Recently, I used to have Bad Santa on there, but then I reverted back to, what's its face?
Yes,
Die Hard.
yes.
Die Hard.
Okay, you got Die Hard on your list.
Here
There
we
we
go.
go. That's it.
Here we go. Every time we bring up Christmas movies, someone's got to bring up Die Hard.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll come back to Die Hard
Because it's not a Christmas movie, but I just, when I was growing up, I was putting, because I originally had Bad Santa on there, but then I was like, this is a little bit of a darker movie. I don't know if I should put it on there. My younger self had Die Hard, and then as I grew, when I hit 30 plus, I put Bad Santa on there because I just enjoyed the hell out of that movie.
I don't know if I've ever seen it, just because it
I
just
haven't.
doesn't appeal to me. Like I
Yes.
said, I don't like the cynicism.
Yeah, that's, again, a darker place.
Is that with Sling Blade?
No, yeah.
Yeah, Billy Bob.
Billy Bob, yeah.
Bob Thornton,
Billy
yeah.
Bob. Yeah.
Nick, I have to pull it.
Oh, no, I did have one.
Go ahead. go ahead.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
Ah, yes, that's on my list.
It didn't make my list because when I saw it, I felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. It didn't know if it was a Christmas movie. It didn't know if it was a Halloween movie,
Which is
and I think it
precisely
suffers
the
from that.
reason so many people love it.
Yeah.
People
They
embrace
love
it at
because
Halloween.
It's
people-
so twisted. It's
Yeah.
just it takes so many chances.
It's my transition movie.
Yeah.
I'm Halloween from Labor Day to Halloween, and then I flip the coin, and from
And
November 1st to January
immediately-
1st, I'm at Christmas, and it carries me right through.
Oh wow, I love that.
I mean,
It's
I
great.
love the design. I do enjoy Tim Burton movies, and I love the characters and
Somebody
the
has
songs
to get
and
beheaded
everything.
in
But
every Tim Burton movie. That's like his hallmark. Someone gets beheaded every
Yeah.
Tim Burton movie.
but that one just
Or
again, that was one that
their
just didn't
throats
speak.
cut like on Sweeney Todd.
Here,
yeah,
had to
people
go
get their
there.
heads
Yeah,
cut
you,
off.
Had
you
to
trolled
go
them on purpose. You
there.
knew what you were doing.
Go to hell.
If you walk in for Christmas with a tray of meat pies, I'm going to throw you out of here into a
Meat
snowbank.
pies. Meat
But,
pies.
but Nick, I'm going to have to go Joe Johnson on you like he did me with Sweeney Todd about that.
Nightmare.
No, the Grinch movie.
Oh yeah.
Do tell.
That movie makes me sick watching it. Like the Dutch angles, like the low angles,
Wow.
the quick zooms. Like it makes me physically ill trying to watch it. It's
You can take that. Me.
Interesting.
like it's like Ron Howard made this, so it's like this movie is extremely off-putting. Like
Yeah.
like it's
For the
That's
cinematography.
fascinating.
that in and of itself, but the way the Whoville people look, like
Yeah.
it makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Go to hell.
No, I'll tell you what. They're better than Cats.
Yeah,
Oh,
Cats
yeah.
is
You guys
pretty
watch
weird.
that?
No, I have no interest.
Nick Hill?
in
No,
that,
no,
Okay.
I had no.
It
interest
didn't
in-
even come up during our musical episode
Oh.
last time.
I did, as not to watch it.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right. Andrew, anything else you want to throw out?
Oh, I got a couple, and
Let's
I'm
hear it, let's
sure. I'm sure 2 of these on your list, Joe.
Okay.
Elf and Home Alone.
Home Alone did not make my cut.
Oh.
Elf did, only because Elf kind of battles that insincerity, that cynicism, and it counters it with this syrupy sweetness. So I love how, in some cases, Elf goes a little too far in the syrupy sweetness.
Sure.
I love that. It
Like
was
especially when he's putting the maple syrup
Yeah,
on
yeah.
everything.
No, it's like sometimes I think, okay, Will, take it down a notch. You're so over the top. But I do appreciate the fact that the movie came out when so many people were cynical and bitter, and the movie came out and said, come on, man, we gotta find that Christmas spirit again. So I saw it in the theater when it came out. It's hard to believe it was 20 years ago.
It was
It
the first
came out-
W. Bush administration. I
Yeah,
remember that.
2003.
Yeah.
That was the first semester of college for me, and I saw it in this old historic theater in downtown Albion with a couple of my friends that I had made. And I remember walking out of that theater saying, this was so good. This is going to be an instant classic.
Yeah.
A Christmas classic that people are going to
Yeah.
love for decades.
And they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. People love Buddy the Elf. He's in parades and all kinds of
I'm
stuff.
pretty sure
Yeah.
that is only Jon Favreau's second feature film that he
Yeah.
directed.
Because he did Iron Man.
He did Iron Man in 2008.
Yeah. Elf?
Before that, he did a movie called Made that he did with Vince Vaughn. That I think was 2001. And
Oh, okay.
I think this was the second one,
Yeah.
which is excellent for a second
Yeah. It is.
feature for a director.
And it's a great cast, and
James
you know-
Caan, Zoe Deschanel, Mary
Yeah.
Steenburgen.
yeah. And I love the fact,
Peter
the
Dinklage.
Sting, 20
Andy
years
Richter.
later.
Dinklage is so good.
Yeah. 20 years later, what I love about this movie is I was at the Lake Orion Christmas Parade last weekend shooting video, and Buddy the Elf was getting pulled in this trailer, and there's a guy hanging out the window dressed as Buddy the Elf, and someone behind me goes, "Hey, Buddy, hope you find your dad." And I'm like, that's so awesome. That's so
Yes.
cool that that's part of the pop culture fabric.
His stepdad was
His stepdad was Newhart,
Oh,
Bob
Bob
Newhart.
Oh yeah,
Bob Newhart.
at the
Bob
North
Newhart.
Pole.
Sitting on his
Yeah.
lap is so funny. 'Cause he's like,
and Santa was
The great Ed
Ed
Asner.
Ed Asner.
as yes, and
Yeah.
so
That
good.
could be a podcast on its own. Was the best Santas in films, the best portrayal of Santas in films.
One last thing, one little snippet that was like a blink and you miss it was towards the end of the movie when he's in Central Park, and then there's the Central Park Rangers. Somebody on the TV program says something like,
Oh yeah,
"The Central Park Rangers they still have a
Controversial or
yeah
something.
there's some controversy surrounding them because they broke up a crowd at
It was like some
It was
massacre.
some concert.
Yeah, they referenced like it was like some apocalyptic massacre that they partook in.
yeah the
People still talk about that.
it was someone like
There's
Like a
some
performer or
controversy.
something.
the duo from the 60s,
Oh, Simon and Garfunkel.
Simon and Garfunkel. I think it was like they broke
Oh.
up Simon and Garfunkel concert.
Something like that.
And
They
I
had
thought that
to-
was
you
so
had to-
funny.
You had to have instant credibility, instant legitimacy to be able to be like, okay, we're really afraid of these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way that movie's written, it is at some points over the top because of Will Ferrell, of course, a lot of his stuff at that time was over the top. But in general, it was well written and universally loved. Everybody
It
loves
is.
this movie.
Yeah, it became an instant holiday
There's
classic.
there's a part in that movie that always gets me like the wrong way when he starts eating the gum from underneath.
Oh, right.
I'm
from
like,
the
so you
banisters
have
and stuff.
hepatitis now. Congratulations.
Now we can't do a podcast without me name dropping. I don't know. I don't know if I told you guys this story, but when I was in L.A., I think it was 2015. I looked up on this app of filming locations in the area, and I saw that they were filming an episode of Drunk History nearby. So there were signs that said no street parking, so I had to like park around the corner, and I walked back to this historic building that housed the Red Cross. And I see the catering food outside and some production trucks and everything, and one lonely security guard. And I said, "You guys filming Drunk History?" And he goes, "Yep." And he probably shouldn't have said this, but I'm like, "So who we got today? Who's in the building?" And he goes, "Will Ferrell's in the building." And I'm thinking, you are not doing your job as a security guard telling me that Will Ferrell's in the building. So it started like drizzling a bit, raining a little bit. I stood in the rain, like trying to stay under a tree, just to try and get a glimpse of Will Ferrell. So eventually, I was out there for about an hour. Eventually, I see people leaving and packing things up, and these white vans are pulling out. And I see people waving to me, standing there in the rain. And this van pulls up in front of me, and I'm standing right up to the passenger window of this van, as close to this TV camera is to me right now. And this head turns around, and it's Will Ferrell. And so I wave to him, and he smiles, and he waves back. And I was hoping he was going to like get out of the van and go, "Hey, how's it going?" But it was awkward. Like he's sitting across from me. The van driver had stopped. Now it's awkward because we're just like staring at each other through the glass of this window. And eventually the van drove off. But I got to see Will Ferrell up close and personal. That was pretty cool. So, let's go back to Home Alone. So when Home Alone came out, I kind of dismissed it as sort of a kiddie movie. Oh, okay, go ahead. So I dismissed Home Alone as something I wasn't interested in. And I never saw it in the theater when it came out. But I remember week after week after week, it stayed like at number one. And it started raking in the money. And it started passing the grosses of some of my favorite movies. And I'm like, what is going on with this movie? It made so much money when it came out. And so finally, I think it was when it came out on video or was on cable, I was like, all right, let me see what this is all about. And I sat down and watched it, and I laughed and I enjoyed it. But I'm like, I don't get it. I don't understand why this movie was such a huge phenomenon about this family leaving their young son
Child abandonment.
behind while they were flying to Europe. Like the premise, I never bought the premise. Like, this is insane. So that's why Home Alone didn't crack my top 10. It just never spoke to me. And if you enjoy it, that's fine. But
That's what I've been doodling.
Yeah, I thought it was Edward Munch's The Scream imitation. I thought that's what he was going for.
When I was drawing the hair like this, George leans over and whispers, "Are you drawing Hitler?"
that's what I thought. When you held it up, I thought it was, you
Yeah.
put a little mustache on him. That looks like Hitler.
It's alt-right Kevin McAllister.
That, or I thought you were going for The Little Rascals.
Nick, is Home Alone in your top 10 Christmas movies?
It is not.
Okay.
Oh.
It is not in my top 10 only because that movie, it happened to be set during Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because it's like Die Hard.
Yeah.
It happened to be set during Christmas. It had nothing to do with Christmas.
Yeah, yeah.
When it's being set.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Go to hell.
Because look, if Die Hard is set in 4th of July, it still
There's-
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, look, you've got all the Christmas ornaments. You've got the parents that have left for Christmas and they're trying to get back. It's the kid going to the church and sitting there
With the old man.
with the old man and talking about the meaning of Christmas, and he gives and at the end he sees the old man put it together. Those are all Christmas values to me. I think it's great. It doesn't center on maybe the presents or the traditional things, but but it doesn't make my top.
But if it was
list
set in
either.
Thanksgiving, you could still say the same thing. It's about family. You know, Thanksgiving, you should go talk to your family. You know,
I don't think it would carry the same weight.
it
though.
wouldn't as Christmas.
I mean, if you put this at 4th of July or Labor Day or whatever, it wouldn't be. It's better if it's Christmas because it pulls on those heartstrings.
Right.
You. And it's
I
like
guess,
these
yeah.
guys that are trying to get into the house. How dare you on Christmas? This is a time we should all be celebrating it. These guys are, flooding houses and stealing their stuff.
Yeah. Top 10, George?
No.
It gives this ringing door, and then
After that passionate plea.
Yeah,
But
that answer
Nah.
came out of a holster. I gotta admit, because I know I've seen it so many
That's
times.
funny.
I love that because
Timing
that
on
was
it
like that was like a college football. It's like I'm gonna say everything great about Alabama. Should they make the playoffs? No.
No.
It's like, what? You just gave this wonderful rendition of everything. And it's like, all right. But it's
Andrew,
true.
any other titles you want to throw out?
Home Alone 2. I don't like it as much as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I saw that in the theater as a
I
kid.
don't even think I've seen Home Alone 2.
Oh,
Yeah.
might not be your thing.
Nah.
I loved it as a kid.
I might watch Sweeney Todd before I watch Home Alone 2.
Ugh.
Some of the abuse he puts them through is still funny though. This part
Yes.
where he electrocutes them. It always gets me. It's one of the funniest
Man.
things.
Hey, and you could see our upcoming president, and he's got
Yeah.
a scene in the
Yeah,
hotel.
he's got a
Oh, that's
cameo.
right. He has a cameo.
He
Yeah.
stops and asks Trump where
He gets at the Waldorf Astoria.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
like-
like, where's the front desk?
where's the front desk?
What else you got?
Gremlins, a movie
Love Gremlins. Yeah.
that I watched for the first time not too long ago.
See, that's another one.
it's
for our
not really.
1984.
Is that at Christmas, but is it a Christmas movie?
It
So he was
is, like
he's
the-
given
the-
the little thing as a gift.
It's true. But again, that could have taken
Well, what's
place
her
anytime.
name? Phoebe Cates is sitting there
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about how her father tried to come down the chimney and he got stuck.
Yeah.
And that was a nightmare.
That's
I was like,
weird.
what?
That was weird. Yeah.
So I got one last
I do
one.
love Gremlins, and
I
it's
love
one of my top
Gremlins, too.
100 favorite
Yes,
films.
yes,
but
me too.
Yes.
Okay.
One last thing, and then the movie itself is not great, but came out in 2006. It's called The Holiday, with Cameron Diaz, Jude Law, Jack Black,
and
Kate Winslet,
Kate Winslet, yeah.
Eli Wallach.
It
was
the response to Love Actually.
I,
feel- Really?
I think it might.
Huh.
It came out 3 years after
It
Love
came
Actually.
out, yeah.
I've never
good.
seen Love Actually, but this movie is, in my opinion, it's good for a romantic comedy, and it takes place at Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to add another, like a kind of something that wouldn't normally be
Yeah, yeah.
considered a Christmas movie because of it's a rom-com and rom-com. And it's a little better than your average.
Yeah. You know what's funny? There's a funny anecdote about that I just saw recently where somebody was interviewing Jack Black like on a red carpet premiere or something. And it must have been around the holidays because the interviewer said, "What's your favorite holiday movie or Christmas movie?" And Jack Black rattled off something like Elf or something. And they were like, "We're surprised you didn't say your own movie." And he goes, "What movie is that?" He said, "The Holiday." And he was like, "What?" He goes, "Oh, yeah, I guess I did that." Like he had no memory of doing a movie. So
He was
So
on.
that
He was on.
speaks
He was
Oh,
on
Jack
ketamine
Black.
the whole time. So.
I mean, I get very scared when you have a movie goes, it's Christmas time, and what are you gonna do when your best friend? When I hear the movie guy's voice trying to, hype up a Christmas movie, I'm like, I can't.
in
do
a
it.
world.
I don't know if you guys seen recently as a side note, but Jack Black did star in another just recently called Dear Santa, where he
It was
where
a
he's-
typo.
was a typo and it says Dear Satan.
Yeah.
It's a weird ride, but
If
there's
you-
some great scenes in there.
If you look the reviews up on Rotten Tomatoes, people freaking hate this movie.
What's
Yeah.
it called?
Dear
Dear
Santa.
Santa, but the kid who writes a letter to Santa accidentally writes Dear Satan, and so Satan
got
gets
dyslexia.
yeah. So
I think that was the pitch for the movie. They're like, we need to make this
Yeah.
movie.
I think this is probably going to be a slow burn. I'm just calling it. I think it might be 10 years from now, and people will be like, lighten up. It's a funny movie. There's some great scenes with Jack Black in it, but it does, it does, if you're a traditional, want your warm fuzzy, you're not going to find it for
Yeah.
quite a while. It's funny.
speaking of which, there's another movie out that came out this holiday season that people just hate, and that's the red one, I think it's called,
Red
where
one, yeah.
Santa gets
Yeah.
kidnapped, and they got
It's
Dwayne the
Johnson,
Rock, and,
yeah.
and I saw the trailers for that, and I thought this looks awful, but the critics have been harsh.
Last year,
Terrible.
I think, did you see the one with, it's Ryan
Reynolds,
Reynolds and Will Ferrell. And I
Oh,
really
yeah.
liked that.
Spirited.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
that was
liked
that was a streaming movie, I think.
Is that a musical?
on-
Or is
It's a
that
streaming music.
there-
Yes, it's
it
a
is
musical. It's got
musical,
some. I think it's got some music. Anyway,
yeah.
I think that's it's
Huh.
really fun. I want to see it again this year. So
Yeah.
that's it. Anyway,
Throw some titles at us, George.
so I'm going to throw you. So since you guys have already stolen all the good ones, I'm going to give you my top 5 hated Christmas things I can't stand anymore. First and foremost is Charlie Brown. Don't like it.
That
Can't stand it.
shocks Me.
Charlie
love
Brown
it.
Yeah.
Christmas. No,
I
I saw
love it.
that when I was a kid. I didn't get the jokes then. They're still not funny now.
Wow.
There it is. Number
Thank
2.
God the Red Scare's over, George. Because right now, you just put us all on the list.
That's right.
If
I
who was
did.
here-
I called up the FBI. Okay,
That's shocking to me.
no, it just it's not my humor. I just don't think it's at all funny. It just sits there. It's very what do you call it? Anyway, it doesn't.
It has the message of trying to appreciate
Boring.
Christmas beyond
Just trying to
the
get that Christmas
material
tree.
possessions. Yeah,
Number 2, White Christmas. Terrible story. Great songs. Terrible story.
I think I might agree with you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I agree.
revisited it recently, but you know what's even worse than White Christmas is Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn
What do you got
came
against
out
Holiday Inn
first.
franchise? Oh, the movie.
No. So, so Holiday Inn came out maybe 5 or 10 years before White Christmas.
Really?
And White Christmas sort of capitalized on the popularity of the song White Christmas, which was featured in Holiday Inn and sung
that's
by Bing
right.
Crosby.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a loose remake. They tried to get some of the same cast members. They weren't available, so they recast some of the roles. But I sat down and watched Holiday Inn last year and hated it.
Yeah.
So if you don't like White Christmas, Holiday Inn's even worse.
I have seen it, I think, years ago, and I didn't like it. Okay, number 3. I liked it when it came out. It has not aged well. Polar Express.
I agree.
do not like that movie
I agree
anymore.
with you on that one.
Can't
The
s- it's
animation is
too-
wasn't where it needed to be at that
especially when did it come out? I mean, the
2004.
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, by that
I saw it at
time,
that
you-
same
you
theater
had
that I saw the
Shrek,
Alf.
and you had
Yeah,
you had
it's a
Shrek that
very
come out.
weird
Yeah.
movie.
Dreamscape was on top of things. Obviously, Toy Story, Pixar was on top of,
Yeah.
and that just looked out of place. Did I like the performance from Tom Hanks? Absolutely. Do I
Yeah.
love the song Hot Chocolate? I love that.
Mm.
But some of it's just boring, and I didn't
I
like
agree with you
I
on
didn't
that
like
one.
the over the top. Oh, Christmas just doesn't work out for me, and and the other, hey, you can't hear the bell ring anymore. It's just like I don't
It just
know.
wasn't even on my
It was
radar.
it
as I was
tried to
putting
have
my
too
list
much
together.
gravitas or something to it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. They played on TV every year along with Charlie Brown, and I'm okay with them. I used to be okay with them when I was a kid, but
Well,
they've
I didn't
just
include any of
gotten,
those on my list only because they're considered TV shows.
Yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
And they
yeah.
become Christmas noise. Like I call it
Christmas. No, that's a
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
point.
It's
That's
just
it.
in the background. If
Yeah.
it's there, it's there. Like I said,
It's comfort background
It is.
noise that we all have memorized.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Nostalgia goes a long way with those. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So the only other ones that I was going to say was Gremlins and the Santa Claus. I don't think anybody's talked about the Santa Claus. I like the Santa
Tim Allen.
Claus.
I saw that in the theater. I liked it as a kid.
Hasn't aged well for you.
When I think about it now, I wouldn't want to watch it again.
I've
Yeah.
seen Santa Claus, the first one, like probably 8 times, and part 2 and part 3 I've seen once, and I
Oh,
just
they're
thought
awful.
these
They're
are
just
terrible.
awful.
because you're running the thing into the ground now at that point.
You are, and-
didn't they do a TV show on Disney Plus that looked awful?
Yeah, it was a series. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, those are terrible.
my problem with the Santa Claus, I saw it in the theater. I have it at number 10 just because I was trying to fill 10 spaces.
It's
What
filler.
bothered me about the Santa Claus when I first saw it in 1994 is that, spoiler alert, Santa Claus dies at the very beginning of the movie. And I'm like, who greenlit this? Why couldn't he have just been, like, laid up? Like, he fell off the roof, he broke his leg, so Tim Allen has to step
but
in.
he waves to the guy as he disappears.
Freaking dies.
He doesn't
like,
die. He waves.
you take your kids
doesn't
to
die.
see this movie and you're like, Daddy, Santa fell off the roof. Is he okay? Well, not really. I just thought that premise was flawed. Like, who said, let's kill off Santa at the beginning of the movie? It's a funny comedy and it has some good moments, but I had a hard time getting past the premise. The only other
I do still like the Doctor. Pardon me. One last one's the Dr. Seuss. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I love that.
Oh,
I love the
classic,
songs
yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
But
It's a
again,
work
that's
of art.
made for
It's- yeah.
made for
Television.
TV. So
Yeah.
anyway, pardon me
Yeah,
for
that was
throwing
the
that
Chuck
in there.
Grinch's
Jones
smile.
animation. One movie we haven't talked about that I think is annual viewing is Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
That's number 6 on my list. Came out, again, another weird release date, June 11th, 1947.
Why in June?
People are sitting in theaters watching Miracle on 34th Street, which I think is really, really odd. It was a
It's,
20th Century Fox film directed
it
by
Natalie
George
Wood?
Seaton. Yeah, young Natalie Wood.
Yeah, she's so
and,
cute and so perfect for that role.
Yeah,
I
Maureen O'Hara, who's absolutely
Yeah.
lovely. John Payne.
Wait,
was a lovely
Maureen
girl.
O'Hara?
Yeah, the redhead.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
was in
yeah.
like the Quiet Man and
I
stuff. She's
love
great.
Maureen O'Hara. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Quiet Man. She's great. Quiet Man.
Edmund Gwenn was Santa, who won an Oscar for that role. And the story, written by Valentine Davies, won him an Oscar for the story. So it was an Oscar-winning film. And so it earned $2.7 million on a $248,000 budget. So back in the day, in 1947, that's an enormous return on investment. 96% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 87% from audience. Then there was a remake that was released in '94, where Richard Attenborough, who was in Jurassic Park, he played the Santa Claus character, and Mara Wilson was in the Natalie Wood role, and that one it was okay. It was
But that's
mostly
the
forgettable,
first
but-
one I saw. I saw it out
Yeah.
of order, so I grabbed onto that one, and then when I saw the original one, oh okay, so it didn't have the same impact on me. But I know,
Yeah.
Miracle on 34th.
Didn't John Hammond play?
Yeah, he
Santa
was.
Claus.
Yeah, he
Attenborough.
was a Santa Claus. Attenborough, yeah. We touched earlier on it. The Bishop's Wife, also released in 1947. Wide release in 1948. February 16th, another Christmas movie that came out in February
What were
by
they
RKO. Directed by Henry Koster. It starred Cary Grant, Loretta Young, David Niven. That one I only saw for the first time maybe a couple of years ago. Really loved it a lot.
Really?
What's odd about this movie is Cary Grant plays this angel who's answering a prayer from David Niven's character, who's a bishop that wants to build a cathedral. And Cary Grant answers his prayer, but he doesn't want the cathedral to be built. He wants him to use that money that would be spent building a cathedral to feed the hungry and stuff. And I'm like, that's a great message.
That is a great message. I mean, I think it was directed at the Catholic Church, maybe. But
You're
who knows?
absolutely right. And now the weird twist on the movie, which I found very surprising, is this angel responds to this prayer from David Niven. Cary Grant's character who's an angel basically, starts to fall in love with the bishop's
Loretta
wife,
Young.
Loretta Young.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
So
where is this
weird.
going?
So weird.
And she basically has to tell this guy near the end of the movie, I love my husband. And he's like, all right. And he goes back to where
And that's
we
one
came
of the
from.
reasons I never really got
It's
it's
a
the same
weird element,
problem
but-
that you had with Home Alone. It was inconsistent. Like I couldn't get past that part.
Yeah. It was an odd twist in the story, but it's a fun movie, and I really enjoyed
I
it.
do have 3 other ones that I forgot about.
Yeah.
Give me a chance. Just
All right, let me. So there's one very obscure film. If you haven't seen it, I really enjoyed this film. It's not your typical Christmas movie, but it does take place at Christmas time, and it's a very good feel-good movie. It's called We're No Angels. It came out, again, July 7th, 1955, another Christmas movie coming out in July by Paramount, directed by Michael Curtiz, who's become one of my all-time favorite directors ever. The cast is Humphrey Bogart, Aldo Ray, and I love Peter Ustinov in this film. The basic premise are these 3 guys escape from like a high-security prison. 2 went to prison for murder. One of them is a thief. I think Humphrey Bogart is a thief. And as they're trying to elude authorities, they find this store run by this couple and their child or whatever. And they come in with like nefarious intentions. Like they're trying to not get caught. And while hiding out and being treated so nicely by this family, they soften up and they're like, let's help this family because their store is failing and all this. And then these 2 villainous characters show up who want to close down the store and everything. They get like weirdly offed in this film, but it actually is
Weirdly off. I'm gonna have to see it.
I don't want to say anything because you'll be like, what the heck is going on? But believe it or not, it's a feel-good movie about redemption, and I really love this movie when I saw it. And Peter Ustinov, I think he was in Spartacus, or Ben-Hur, one of those Roman sandals epics. He's great. He's really, really super good. So that's my list. We got a few minutes left. Go ahead and rattle off those titles.
So for the ladies, okay, Little Women.
Is that a Christmas movie?
Well, it has a part during Christmas where everybody's thinking about that's
Right.
okay. So
I've
Little
never
Women,
seen it. They just did a
Really?
theatrical version at like Orion High School.
They
which,
did, and it was phenomenal.
I wanna
by the way,
I
it
wanna
was
see the
really,
film version.
really well done. They've really come back.
Okay.
Meet Me in St. Louis has a lot of Christmas parts in there.
They introduced the song "Have Yourself a
Have
Merry
Merry
Little
Christmas,
Christmas" was introduced
exactly.
in that film. Yep.
And then I think that's it. Actually, there was a third one, but we already talked about it. Shop Around the Corner. Yeah.
Yeah. So with these last few minutes, I just wanted. I did a full podcast a week or so ago with my intern Lexi, talking about Die Hard and whether or not it's a Christmas movie. Then the thing I came out of the gate with
Weren't you
was
just
it was
complaining
released
about
in
this?
July. It was released in July. It was not released at Christmas time. My opinion is it's one of the greatest action flicks ever made. That it needed a premise of a holiday office party to get everybody in that building after hours so that they can be threatened by these terrorists that come in. So I think it's a matter of convenience to have it set during a holiday office party. But
Sure.
that by no means makes Die Hard a Christmas movie. That's my take on it. Nick, what's your take on Die Hard being a Christmas movie?
I mean, it entered because the commercialism kind of swung me on that one because it's in the rotation. But like I said, my Mount Rushmore, it rotates with my fourth spot. I actually want to take a page out of George's book and predict something down the line. A will they, won't they forbidden romance that's coming up, and we're talking about release dates also, which factor into it. And we don't know in years whether it's going to land or not. But the will they, won't they of Nosferatu coming out on Christmas because that's what Universal does. You release a vampire horror movie on Christmas, you jackasses.
And I'll be right there to see it.
You
in
know
the
what?
theater.
I think it's actually genius because at the end of Christmas, every year everybody gets a little sick of the syrupiness
Yeah.
of Christmas.
That's
and
true. I agree with
It's
you on that.
And
counter-
I think it's
counter
kind of
programming.
It's
That's
kind
what they
of
call
the.
it.
It's kind of the.
On Christmas Day, though. Why did you release this on Christmas
Yeah.
Day?
So Christmas
It's
Day.
not even a dark comedy. This thing apparently is true horror.
Christmas Day is on a Wednesday this
Yeah.
year, 2 weeks from today, and I predict that weekend that
It could be the #1 film.
That's fine. And I have no
most
problem.
people are going to be out of work that Thursday, Friday,
Wait.
Saturday, Sunday. People are going to go see this movie. I think I think it'll make good, decent money for a horror movie.
Yes, I fist bumped you for that. Not for the release date.
Oh.
You got to have the release. It's Christmas Day, man. You putting out a true horror movie.
Now, you remind me of an incident. I'm sure I told you guys this. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on the podcast.
Come on,
but
Universal.
I used to go see movies on Christmas Day because I had some time to kill between the morning activities and then Christmas dinner. So I would always go see a movie with my sister. And I'll never forget standing in line to purchase tickets to see Dreamgirls, I believe it was, which was, I believe, released on Christmas Day. There was a family, including young children, in front of me, and they said 4 tickets for Black Christmas. And I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. And who takes their young children, a family, to go see a horror slasher flick on Christmas Day?
You know, we should have
I'll
an
never
entire program. I'm
understand
not
that.
joking about movie etiquette and
Yes.
and
I have
movie.
stories.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Because this is the equivalent of, we should go see a movie on Christmas Day. It's a tradition, family tradition. I agree. What are you seeing? And I'll go to this well all the time. What do you want to see? Schindler's List.
Yeah, right.
Sophie's Choice.
And you got kids like sitting there next to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go see a movie on Christmas, kids. Let's go.
Let's go see Saw.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not? Why not?
All right, we're just about out of time. Die Hard, Christmas movie, yes or no, Andrew?
I'll tell you after I watch it.
Oh, no.
That's how we end.
George, Die Hard,
Man,
Christmas
I'm a
movie,
50,
yes or no?
50. I'm going to say very reluctantly yes,
Oh.
because of the fact that it takes place with, like you pointed out, with all the employees there.
Yep.
It's the backdrop. It's the only reason it would have happened is because of Christmas. It wouldn't have happened. It might have happened for 4th of July.
Maybe.
Maybe they had a
Maybe.
office party for that. Anyway.
Right. All right. On that note, this will be our last podcast of this year. And I think we'll start off 2025 to look back on 2024 and look ahead to the recently
Merry-
announced films that are all sequels, prequels, and reboots coming out in 2025.
Oh, it's
So-
wake me up when it's over. But you know what? Merry
Hey,
Christmas,
some of those will
gentlemen.
be
Merry
good.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy
Merry
New
Christmas.
Year.
I
and
love the
we'll see you then.
lists that you guys send me. It's nobody. No, for those listening, these guys, we just blow up this great little chat on
Yes.
on
Let
the
me
phone.
say this. I probably should have said this closer to Thanksgiving, but what I am thankful for with you guys are to have people that I can talk passionately about movies with. So
Yes.
thank you for that, guys.
Oh,
Likewise.
thank you.
Thank you for hosting,
Merry
Joe.
Christmas
Yeah.
and thanks for hosting this.
Yeah.
Come to the movies, watch Charlie Chaplin, and put some sunshine into your day. Forget the hard times, come to the movies, and try to laugh your troubles away.